It's been a while since I recorded one of these. Black. Based on Twisted Metal Black. Developed by Incog Incorporated. Published by Sony Computer Entertainment of America. Chapter 4. Parked more than a mile away from Blackfield Asylum on a small hillside rising above the plateau was a ratty old clunker, so rusty that it was nearly impossible to tell what the hell kind of car it was. The driver was sitting on the hood, looking blankly down at the distant asylum, a faint smudge of gray with 4 searchlights that were mere dots in the middle of the broad, flat, black desert night. He had been watching the place for 3 months, and he had made up his mind. It was perfect. This year it would be like no other. It wouldn't be hard to recruit people whose desires have little root in reality, and each one of them was something special. And then, of course, there was Sweet Tooth. He already knew he was his favorite, even though he'd never met the clown face to face. He already knew. And it wouldn't be long until the festivities began, and he could meet the object of his fascination face to face. It was thanks to the clown that he had found the asylum, and for that he almost wanted to shake his hand. But he had a healthy dose of self-interest that told him that if he wanted to keep his life, he probably shouldn't do that. He had been watching the clown for a long time with eager eyes. Murder after murder, all in cold blood, and Sweet Tooth showed no remorse for what he was doing. There were others, too, that struck the man's fancy, like Grimm and the Amnesiac, but he really wanted Sweet Tooth to win. The man pulled an M9 pistol out from his belt. One of his favorites from last year had given it to him. Police special, and very reliable. Sure, he already had one, but he appreciated the gesture. He toyed with it, twirling it on his finger and then stopping it, looking down the sights at Blackfield. He wondered how the clown would take the guns. Something flickering in the distance caught his attention. The man grinned. He replaced the gun and fumbled in his pocket for his monocular telescope. He put it up to his good eye. He focused in on it and grinned. The clown had lit up again, and the light of the flames glowed red through the single cross-shaped window in the cell. Like the Antichrist, the man mused. He moved around to see if he could catch a glimpse of the clown, but had no luck. Screw it, he thought, it's not important. He didn't need to see him with a good eye anyway. That was for normal people. He had a special way of seeing. He put his hand over his good eye and began to progressively relax. His blackened eye was not blind by any means. It wouldn't be correct to call it a bad eye. An evil eye would be more accurate. He began to focus his thoughts on the object of his attention. He thought of the clown, and slowly a picture began to form in his mind. "There you are," the man muttered. The clown was standing upright, his arms stretched out. He was angry, and his hand was pressed hard against a frozen steak? The man smirked and lost his concentration. A while went by before he was able to regain it. Now the clown was sitting against the wall thinking. The man strained hard to focus on the clown. What was he thinking? He was too far away. He couldn't see it from there. The clown leapt up and ran. Ah! The man jumped with a start and lost the image. The red flicker in the distance disappeared. The man stopped for a second, and then cursed aloud. The clown had escaped, and if he didn't make his move right now, he might lose him. The man popped the trunk of his rusty old clunker. He hurriedly rummaged through the several backpacks he had squished together and discovered with a nasty shock that a raccoon had made a bed out of one of them. It leapt out of the bag and onto the ground and began to scurry away. Like lightning, the gun was in his hands and lined up, and he put a hole in its head. He put it back in his belt and went back to trying to find that damned radio. He found it. He tuned it and sent, and waited for that familiar voice. "Master," the radio responded. "It's time," the man said with a mean smile. "Tell them to move out right now." The voice on the other end came back. "Yes, my master." The man switched off his radio and yanked open the door. It fell off. It didn't matter. He put the key in the ignition and floored it. The rust and mold trailed off the car in clouds of dust as he sped up, faster and faster. The whole time the car rattled and shook as though it was falling apart. Blackfield Asylum mushroomed in front of him. 2 search towers were already focused on him as he sped up to the fence, and he hit the gate like a missile. The gate flew open and the car seemed to explode into a massive cloud of dust illuminated by the searchlights. An alarm sounded, and 4 security personnel came out, nervously aiming their weapons at the cloud. The dust lingered in the air as though frozen. Finally it cleared, and when it did, the car was gone. All that was there was the man standing tall. The guards exchanged nervous looks. One of the guards, clearly the youngest, was sweating like mad. The man eyed him with his good eye. The young man's hands were shaking uncontrollably. If he fired, he had a pretty good chance of hitting only sand. The young guard finally shouted, "Who the fuck are you?" In response, the man shot all three of his comrades. The young guard froze, and then his finger squeezed the trigger. The gun jumped to life. The kick was like stopping a baseball bat with the palm of his hand, and he could feel the shock all the way up his arms. The bright flashes were agonizing, and he squinted his eyes. Finally it stopped. The magazine was empty. The cordite stung his nose. The young guard lowered his gun. The man was still standing there. His hands were flung out in front of his face. He slowly lowered his hands and opened his eyes. Off in the distance, a line of lights could be seen on the horizon, and the rumbling of cars grew louder and louder.